Hello everyone, I am Zazubaar, and today I'm here for another chat video with a very good friend of mine. And we're welcoming back to the channel today, Therealmanos. Say hi, dude.
Hi, how's it going, everybody? I'm the real Manos.
Indeed. Thank you very much for joining us today.
No problem. It's great to be on, and I've been wanting to come back for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great success with the James Bond video. A lot of views on that one, a lot of likes, a lot of people were giving their thoughts on the future of James Bond. So we did a great job with that one. Now, today's topic actually comes from Manos himself. So Manos, why don't you tell us about the topic you wanted to talk about today?
Sure. Both you and I are big fans of Kaiju and Mystery Science Theater, and Mystery Science Theater had done quite a few Kaiju films, so I thought, do what I do and put them together, and we'd talk about MST3K and the Kaiju films they'd done.
Yes, this is something that I've always wanted to do. I haven't really posted any Mystery Science Theater videos, and Manos has posted a lot of them.
Yes.
So there's a lack there that I need to make up for because I am a huge fan of the show. I'm glad that he finally suggested that we do something together about it on my channel. So we're going to be talking about that today. Now, here's the really interesting thing. I think the Kaiju series that they're the most well-known for talking about and, of course, riffing on is Gamera.
Yes.
So, Manos, how do you feel about the Showa Gamera films as films?
They are actually pretty important to me because the first episode of Mystery Science Theater I'd ever seen was the Gamera episode, the first one, actually. And, I mean, how geeky is this? I was hanging out at a comic book store, the one I used to go to all the time back in the day, Mega City Comics. And one of the guys working behind the counter was watching it. And the TV had been facing, past the counter so I could see it. So I kind of watched over his shoulder, and I ended up watching, like, the whole episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just hanging out at the store.
And you could, like, hear it?
Yeah, what's that?
You could, like, hear it, too?
Yeah. I mean, it was just literally, like, I was, like, 2 feet behind the counter. So,
oh, okay. Okay.
He wasn't behind anything.
Okay.
But I'd heard of the show, and I actually thought it was a Sci-Fi Channel show. And actually, I've been told a lot of people thought that too when it first came out. Like, oh, it's not on Sci-Fi Channel. Where is it? It's like, oh, it's on Comedy Central. Oh, well, shit. So I actually had at that point, I was living at home, and my parents were living in Chesapeake, Virginia, and they didn't have Sci-Fi Channel. They didn't have the Comedy Central. So I'd only heard about this show, so this was a great chance to watch it, and I loved it. I was mesmerized by it. And I really dug the whole aspect that they sit and watch the movie with you, much like, horror movie and sci-fi movie hosts, but they actually watch it with you and make pretty funny comments. And, they sounded to me almost written, almost improvised, and they're mostly written.
Yeah.
And actually very, very, if you actually watch the behind the scenes on how they put together an episode, it is a dense, multi-layered machine after a while because, they had to time all the jokes out.
Right.
A lot of people thought, it's like people who love the show, people who hate the show, just thought they just sit back and crack jokes. But that's how they kind of write the jokes, but they kind of figure out who says what lines, they rewrite lines, and they have to time it out. So when Joel and Mike and the bots are sitting there in the silhouette stage, they're looking at their screens and performing and reading the jokes as they're supposed to go off on the certain times.
Right.
When you look at that, it's like, wow, I can't believe they do that so well. And I was a sucker for it. And then eventually I got Comedy Central, which was weird because my local station had Comedy Central half the day. It would be, it was weird. It would be some other channel, which I can't remember, from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then 4 p.m. to I actually would like go to 4 a.m. and then switch to infomercials for 2 hours.
Of course they did.
Yeah. So I started to get a taste of it. More of a taste. I became obsessed with it, actually. And I think I started watching the show. This is in 92, late 91, actually. So it was like about around the third or fourth season, I think. I think the third season was just ending.
Well, it started in 88, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it started in 88 technically at KTMA.
Right.
And then it went national on what was known at the time as the Comedy Channel, and then Comedy Channel in 89, and then Comedy Channel and HA merged to become Comedy Central.
Right.
There, quick history lesson.
Sure. You prompted me to say this. Since you explained how you got into the show, I might as well explain how I got into it.
Yeah, please. I'd love to hear it.
So here's the thing. My mother hates that show. Because my mom is a movie fan, and so is her whole side of the family. And the thing is that, like, very big proponent of don't talk during the movie. Now, here's the thing. I can't shut up during a movie. Especially if it's a movie that I don't like, because otherwise I'm bored. If it's a movie I'm enthralled with, like if I'm watching, it's like Planet of the Apes, I don't like to talk during, because it's Planet of the Apes. But like, certain like monster movies and stuff, I can't shut up, because I can't stop doing a running commentary. And for years and years, friends of mine and family members would yell at me because I couldn't shut up while they were trying to watch the movie. And, I remember when I was very young, I was watching Sci-Fi Channel, and I don't know what the movie was, but it was Mystery Science Theater doing, their little riffing thing on a movie. And I started watching it, and I don't remember my reaction to it, but I have a very vivid image of watching it in my brain. And my mom was like, "Oh God, I hate this show. Let's turn it off." And I was like, "But I like it." And she's like, "No, talking during a movie is wrong." And she turned it off.
It says it in the Bible.
It does. So my mom was very, very stern about that, I'll have you know.
Yeah.
For years and years, I was kind of bred to just kind of avoid that show. And then finally, I don't remember what the year was. I was in 7th grade. And I don't feel like doing math, so I won't work backwards. But I was in 7th grade. And I remember seeing the movie, in fact. It was on Stars, or one of the movie channels.
Oh, neat.
And it was on demand. And I was like, all right, let's give it a try. And I rewatched it every single day for like a week. I fell in love with that movie. And I didn't really know that it was based on a TV show until I started looking it up and stuff. And, I learned about it. And, of course, then I started, seeking out episodes. And I bought a couple box sets. And, at this point, YouTube had come around. So a lot of the show is, in fact, on YouTube. And I caught some episodes on there, and of course you get the box sets at DVD stores and stuff. So that's how I kind of got into the show. So for me, it was the movie. So I kind of grew up, so to speak, on Mike, and of course I got introduced to Joel later. But that's how I got into the show myself. It was through the movie. Which I don't know. How do you feel about the movie? Just to kind of get into an MST3K rant here.
I love the movie. It's a good episode if you think of it that way.
Very true.
But it was obviously written to approach new fans.
Yeah, that's true.
If you pay attention, their references aren't as obscure as an average episode is.
Yeah, that's true.
There's one episode, Cave Dwellers. They're referring to a comedian they know in the local area over and over again.
Great.
That's how obscure they would get. So yeah, it's written that way, and it apparently works because I've heard more than one person say the thing that got him into the show was the movie. So it did work. I think if the studio had been more behind it, I think it maybe would have been more successful at what they were trying to do.
Yeah,
because it's one of those cases where the studio picks it up and puts this effort into it, and this dumps it in theaters, which is weird. I never understand that behavior.
didn't they not even give it like a traditional theatrical release? Wasn't it like taken on the road?
Almost, yeah. It was limited release. I actually saw it in an art house. Norfolk has a couple of art houses. The best one is the Narrow Movie Theater, and they showed it for a week at the Narrow, which was awesome.
Awesome,
because I got to watch it. I actually saw it. How many times? I saw it 3 times during that week.
So like, hey.
What's that?
So you're like me. We rewatched it in the course of a week, like several times.
I paid to see it in that theater 3 times in 1 week, and it was great. The first time I went with a bunch of friends on like a Friday, and when we were leaving, there were some people entering for the next show, and they were like cosplaying.
That's awesome.
As let's see, there was a Frank and a Forrester and a Manos. There was a Master and a Torgo, like walking into the theater to see it, like it was Rocky Horror or something like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then on the next day, I went back the next day on a date, and it was packed. I rarely see this theater packed, and it was like filled, which was just awesome. And then I saw it one more time. I went with another date.
Oh, nice. So okay. So you were kind of taking the whole town to see the movie. Nice.
Yes, I love it.
Manos was flexing his muscles, his MST3K muscles with the women. Yeah. Yeah. So the movie was what got into me. I like the movie a lot. I agree with you. It works as a good episode of the show. It's bizarre because it doesn't fit anywhere in the show because Frank's not there. Pearl's not there, and what's his name? God, what's the guy who plays Forrester's name? Trace Bureau.
Yeah,
Trace Bureau's his name, right?
And
he's still voicing Crow. So it's in a very strange place in the show because it kind of takes place in between season 6 and 7.
Yes, correct. And
so it's a little bit weird like that.
Yeah, Mary Jo hadn't fully come on, and Frank had just left.
Right? Didn't he die or something?
No.
No, I don't remember.
He went on to write in Hollywood, actually.
Not the actor, the character.
Oh, the character. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah. Frank. TV's Frank died. He choked on.
Oh, I should have clarified. I should have said TV's Frank.
Yeah. TV's Frank died or choked on a chicken bone or something and went up to second banana heaven.
Do you remember when there was the episode where they were like Dr. Forrester created the organ donor vending machine?
I just watched that. Not that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember what movie they were watching, but I remember that episode. Frank's like sitting there, he can't get the coins out.
Yeah.
Oh god, it gets jammed.
It was in the Vendigut.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, that was great. It's a really the movie. I think that it's definitely worth watching. It's very, very funny. The movie they're watching is actually a pretty good sci-fi film itself. It's definitely filled with laughs. Of course, when the mutant pops up, it's all very, very funny. Is he wearing slacks? It's really, really fun. But it's not a kaiju movie they're watching. So
yeah.
Manos, what do you say we get back to the specific of Mystery Science Theater in relation to kaiju?
Yes, now that we've set up our love of MST3K.
Indeed. Okay, so kaiju specifically. Of course, the big one they're known for is Gamera. Gamera got his own box set with Mystery Science Theater. Here's the thing. Kind of infamous on my channel for not being the biggest proponent of the Showa Gamera series. I grew up with Godzilla, and I wasn't introduced to Gamera until, I don't know, I had been an established Godzilla fan for many, many years. And when I finally watched Gamera, I watched Gamera the Invincible, which is the second American dub of the original Gamera film. There are 2 of those. And the one that's on Mystery Science Theater is the Sandy Frank version, the one with the guy who looks like Curly from the Three Stooges.
Yeah, they added that footage, didn't they?
Yes, they did. That was not shot for the Japanese version.
Okay.
And then, of course, they did I guess it must have been the same year, because they did another version called, no, it wasn't. It was 69, I think. Then they did Gamera the Invincible, which is actually kind of superior, because the acting's a little better, the editing isn't as jarring, and the budget was a little higher. So it was a little bit of a better dub release. And And the American footage for that was different. It was different military personnel, different structure. But the version they watched from Mystery Science Theater was the Sandy Frank version. Now, Showa Gamera, was of course created with the intention of, hey, those Godzilla films are very, very popular. Let's make our own franchise.
Yes.
And Gamera has his own story behind him and his own fan base. And I don't know about you, Manos, but the version of Gamera I love is the '90s Gamera, the Heisei Gamera. Have you seen the Heisei Gamera trilogy?
I'll be honest, I have not. I'm more of a Godzilla guy, so I haven't really dug too deeply in the Gamera movies.
Oh, do yourself a favor. They are 3 of the greatest monster movies ever made.
I am aware they are awesome. I've heard nothing but good reviews about them.
Oh, they're spectacular. Especially the third one. The third one is a work of art. It's like the Dark Knight of monster movies. And it really is. It's that kind of level of just, it does that for monster movies that the Dark Knight did for superhero movies. It kind of validates it.
Yeah.
In that very artistic way. But do yourself a favor, check those out. But Showa Gamera, excuse me, my voice is cracking. It's very it's there for Mystery Science Theater to riff on it, is what I'm going to say about Showa Gamera. But here's the thing. For many, many years, very famously, the company that owns Gamera, Katawaka Pictures, would not let them release the episodes of Mystery Science Theater that they did on Gamera because they thought that I guess they were pissed off that it mocked those movies.
Also, Sandy Frank, who had the license of his version of those films, he was not a fan of Mystery Science Theater because they did a series of episodes with his movies. Not just the Gamera ones, but the Fugitive Alien ones, Time of the Apes, Mighty Jack. And after a while, they just started slamming him specifically.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they do that sometimes.
He's not a person with a great sense of humor about himself, apparently. So for a while, he wouldn't sign off. What's cool about Shout Factory is they have some magic kind of weapon that they use. Because they had, once they took over the license from Rhino, as far as distributing these, they pledged to have every episode available and released. And I remember as a fan thinking, are you kidding me? Really? Like the Universal episodes, and, the Gamera episodes, and, the other Sandy Frank, there's no way. And they're pretty much halfway there. They've gotten all the Sandy Frank, I think all the Sandy Frank ones are all out now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because I know they did the big Mystery Science Theater versus Gamera box set, which I still don't have. I really want to get
great box set. I highly recommend it.
Oh, I really need to get it. But yeah, that was a problem for many years, and this is where we can kind of get into it. It's like Mystery Science Theater is in this place in the entertainment industry where people are either big fans of it or they freaking despise it because they can't get behind the sense of humor.
Yes.
There was one movie called Hobgoblins that they did,
yeah.
And the director was specifically, as he says, mutually, like really, they criticize him a lot at the end because they actually have like a cardboard standee of him come out and sit with them in the seats, and they kind of interview him.
That is my favorite moment in the episode, by the way.
Yeah, it was amazing because just like Crow sits him down and they start interviewing him, and it was great.
Because they do it in a way where Crow is sort of like wasn't prepared.
Yep.
to improvise, so he just like says the most inane things.
He's asking the stupidest questions.
Yeah. So yeah, they're quite funny.
Yeah.
But he was angry, right?
Oh, he was pissed. Well, because his point was that like they had never been that angry towards a director before. And I'm like, look, dude, whenever they watch the opening credits of a movie, they do nothing but pick apart the individual people who are listed. So you are not the first person to be called out like that. And also, you gotta understand, they're doing it for comedy.
Yeah.
They're not critics. They're comedians.
And plus, it's a really horrible movie. I mean,
it's terrible.
That film like has such an attitude. Like it's so out there. It's so funny, and it's really lame. It's a very lame, terrible movie. It's not funny. And
No.
by the way, I don't know if you've seen, he did a I can't remember if it's a sequel or a reboot of Hobgoblins.
Oh God, did he?
He did, like you can look it up. I think it's Hobgoblins 2 or something like that. And
oh God.
in the trailer, he uses the song that Mike and the Bots made up.
Oh really?
Yeah. So hey, someone's like taking advantage, and that's
yeah. And that's another. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's the thing that some of these films, it's a blessing and it's a curse and a blessing, because a lot of people would have never heard of Hobgoblins or Time Chasers or Manos, for instance, if it wasn't for MST3K. I mean, I never would have seen any of the Coleman Francis movies if it wasn't for them.
No. Yeah.
But I've seen them a ton of times. I only have watched them so much because my girlfriend actually hates those movies.
oh,
She
really?
hates them so much, it's hard to even watch them with MST3K, because I don't know if you've seen the Coleman Francis episodes, but they're so hilariously depressing. It's hard to get through them. I particularly like Red Zone Cuba, because it is just, I don't know what's going on in the movie. I mean, it's so, like, it's obviously directed by a drunk. It just doesn't, the movie, like, you know, loses. It's supposed to be about this escaped prisoner who ends up like attacking Cuba for the government, and then they give up on that plot like halfway through the movie.
And then what does it turn into, a porno?
And no, then it turns into like him and his friends like discover one of the guys who was in the army like had this gold mine or something.
It's a treasure hunt movie. All of a sudden.
Then they go to and then that doesn't even like pay off. I mean, and all the while it's depressing. I mean, it's such a strange movie.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is that I don't think these people get is like, you know, these directors. There's definitely, you know, it's like these movies become immortalized when Mystery Science Theater riffs on them, because people don't remember them for the movies. The movies have no impact. It's the fact that you know, the Bots and Mike and the writers made fun of them in a way and paid tribute to them in a way that really immortalized them throughout time. Where it's like, oh, people remember Manos, you know, and I'm sure you'll be testament to this, because that's that movie that got ripped on Mystery Science Theater. It wasn't because people knew. People went out and saw Manos specifically.
Yeah.
And you know, for some of the movies, I did actually know about them before I saw them on Mystery Science Theater. Like Gorgo was a movie that I had watched for years.
Yeah.
Until I knew they did an episode of Mystery Science Theater, which, by the way, their episode is fucking hysterical.
It is.
Especially the waiting for Gorgo part. Which there is actually a feature, well, not feature, it's like it's a short film based on that skit now.
Yeah.
Which I still haven't seen. But it's the same premise. It's a couple guys sitting in a British office waiting for Gorgo. And it's really funny.
I also loved the fact that they had Leonard Maltin introduce that film.
Oh, that was great. It's funny. I agree with his assessment of Gorgo completely.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But then he was just like, but it put two of my interns into a coma. So I don't know.
I will say, like, I actually talked about this movie in my top 10 MST3K movies I actually liked. And
I saw that.
Yeah,
yes.
I forgot where I rated this. I think I rated it at 5. And
yeah.
I think it's very slow in the beginning and kind of dull, with the exception of the scene where the first monster shows up in the lake.
Yeah.
Great scene. And then it gets boring again. And then we go to the obvious, well, let's make it part of the circus and zoo and bring it into the middle of the city.
Yeah.
But when its mother shows up to destroy London, I mean, the rest of the movie is just great.
Those are some of the greatest monster effects of the 1960s. I'm big E.G. Sabraya fan. The man is a god, but god damn it, he had some competition with those Brits, because they kicked ass.
Yeah. And
the monster looks amazing.
And here's another thing. I had heard of Gorgo, but I'd never seen the film. I had seen it for the first time on MST3K.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. which some people who hate Mystery Science Theater because they don't respect the art of, hobgoblins. Is they have to understand that, people get obsessed over the show. They watch these episodes over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And a weird thing happens when you watch a certain episode over and over again, you actually start to love the movie in a way, because you kind of respect what the filmmakers had to go through and maybe the actors had to go through. Yeah. And, it's almost like a hazing.
Yeah.
In a way. These movies are being hazed.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making it out the other end. And, you welcome them with open arms. With the exception of, like, Hobgoblins and Red Zone Q Goblins.
Well, when they're legitimately bad, it's like... Well, the thing about these monster movies that we're specifically aiming our focus at is that they've got charm to them. I mean,
they do, yeah.
Gorgo has a charm to it. It's not a terrible movie. It's not trying to make a giant statement about the human condition. It's trying to be a fun monster movie, and it really succeeds. It's a Godzilla ripoff, but it really succeeds in being a Godzilla ripoff.
There is not one of any of the Kaiju films they did that I dislike. I enjoy all of them.
No, yeah, they all have charm to them. I mean, again, the Showa Gamera films, they're not great movies, but they've got a charm to them.
Yeah, and Godzilla versus Megalon is really good. And
yep, so it is. Yes.
And Godzilla versus Megalon is a funny episode.
Yeah.
And you know what? That movie was already infamous in America anyway. People were already riffing on that, making fun of it. I think NBC showed it on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was a TV run for that movie, and it got actually a pretty big theatrical release. There's a comic book, American comic book based on that movie.
Yeah. Although to be honest, I like Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster better as a film.
Let's talk about this briefly.
Sure.
Okay, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster is the second Godzilla movie I ever saw as a kid.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. A year ago, I did a review of all the Godzilla movies. I did Godzilla Palooza.
Yeah, I remember those. Those were good.
Thank you. And Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster is a movie that, of course, it was supposed to be a King Kong movie originally, and that's very obvious when you watch the movie, because they just kind of sub in Godzilla for Kong.
Yeah.
And the movie has some redeeming qualities. Akira Takarada is a badass in that movie.
Yeah.
He always is. And
was he the actor who played the thief?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I really like that character, actually.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting, and he goes, Akira Takarada is probably my favorite Godzilla actor. He's in a lot of the movies. He was Ogata in the original. He's in Mothra vs. Godzilla. He's Sakai. Yeah. Lot of great Godzilla movies. Sea Monster, he redeems that role. He redeems that movie to a certain degree. My problem with that movie is the rest of the human cast is so fucking annoying. They're so annoying. They don't shut up.
They play it big, don't they?
They do. They really overact. They're very annoying. I love how there's those brothers who, the whole plot of the movie is that they go out to sea looking for this guy's brother. And they steal this boat that this thief is sleeping on. And of course that's the whole setup. And then they go to the island where the Red Bamboo terrorist organization is building nuclear weapons, and they've got this monster named Ebera patrolling the island. Little do they know that Godzilla is sleeping on the island. Yeah, right. For some reason. I mean, he just had a giant battle with Ghidorah in the previous movie, so who knows? I guess he needed a rest. How he got locked in a mountain, who knows? My biggest problem with Sea Monster is that the plot has nothing to do with Godzilla, so he's basically just there as a big gun, which I'm never crazy about. I don't really like Godzilla movies where he's just a big gun. The only one where it works for me is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Mm-hmm. And that's just because he's part of a prophecy, and it works in that movie. But Sea Monster, I don't know. I find it boring. The scenes with Godzilla, the special effects are actually fairly well done for one of the later Showa films. Because E.G. Tsuburaya got very, very sick in the late 60s, and he wasn't able to be on the set for a lot of them. So Sea Monster is where they kind of start to teeter off. For they're fairly good in that film.
One of my problems with the film is I think that Godzilla suit looks really bad.
Oh yeah, the Daisenso Goji suit.
It looks beat up.
Well, it was the same suit they used in Invasion of the Astro Monster. And you know, the head is hideous. The body is fucking flabby as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it. It's very much so the archetypical Showa Godzilla. I'll say that. Like whenever you think of Showa Godzilla, that's kind of the design that pops to my head. That and also the one they used in Destroy All Monsters for me. But you know, at least it's not as ugly as the one they used in Son of Godzilla.
That is true. That is hideous. I will say the thing about Godzilla vs. Megalon is when was that made? Mid-70s?
That was 73.
God, 73. You know what? I really love the 70s as a whole. I mean, that has a lot to do with that. That was my childhood. I was born in 71.
Right.
And you know, I always look back fondly at the 70s. And specifically at stuff from the 70s that maybe I didn't see so much, like a lot of Japanese stuff, a lot of Japanese films and TV shows I see from the 70s. I don't know. There's just... I love watching 70s Japanese films and TV shows because that's when that stuff started to filter over here in America.
Yeah.
And I always ate that stuff up. There'd be the Shogun Warrior toys, some of the animes, and of course the Godzilla films. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I have really fond memories of that stuff. So that I don't know. As soon as I see like a Japanese guy like in bell bottoms and a big belt, I was like, oh cool, I'm watching this.
Oh God. The agents in Godzilla vs. Megalon have the worst hair I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I know. Well, and those outfits, too.
Those outfits are... The Seatopian leader is fucking hysterical. The silver suits.
Well, it's so funny. They have a couple of jokes where they, like, were going to say something, but they started laughing at his stupid look.
Yeah. I love when they call Megalon the Christmas tree monster. That was great. And he's got 2 Chrysler buildings on his arms.
I know. Well,
that episode is hysterical. Now, Godzilla vs. Megalon is a movie I despise. I can't watch that movie. It's really bad in my eyes.
And do you think that movie gave Godzilla a bad name in the States for a while?
Well, it did. It definitely did. And it's funny because the next one that got a big release over here was technically Godzilla 1985, the one that was produced by Roger Corman, which is one I really enjoy. Especially the Japanese version is amazing.
Yeah.
In that case. But well, I say that was the next big one. Terror of Mechagodzilla tried to have a big release over here, but the movie in Japan did really poorly. So imagine how it did over here.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes.
So yeah, but with Megalon, you know, the movie was again. It's funny. Those 2 movies were not supposed to be Godzilla movies. In Megalon's case, it was supposed to be a movie all about Jet Jaguar. But at the last minute, they decided, oh, this movie isn't going to do well. Let's throw Godzilla in there. So that's why he's only in like the last 20 minutes.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's obvious that it is attempted to start his own movie series. I didn't know that Godzilla was brought in at the end, actually, of the production. That makes a lot of sense because he's barely in the movie.
He is barely in it. I mean, he doesn't serve any purpose. He's basically, and also he's so goofy in it. I mean, it's like. It's really like...
Well, he does that weird jump thing.
Oh, God.
Which for a while, I don't know if you remember, for a while in the MST3K credits, that weird jump thing was one of the footage they would use.
Little teaser thing at the end?
Yeah, no, in the intro.
Oh!
That was in the intro for a while.
Oh, okay.
I think it was during Season 3 it was in the intro.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, my God, that moment is hysterical. Because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
I know. At no point. Like, I love how he's picking up Megalon by the tail and slamming him down kind of in between his legs.
Yeah, it was weird.
And Servo says, I like to call this one the Linda Blair.
And then Thro's like, and now Godzilla's tossing around a guy in an empty rubber suit.
I love how vulgar they could be with innuendo. I think they were always really clever with that.
Oh yeah, I remember the part where they're talking about how Jet Jaguar and Godzilla are basically gay lovers.
Yeah.
Godzilla, your tail just got longer. That's not my tail? Oh.
Oh, and they tried to translate the Jet Jaguar fight song.
Oh, God. That song is hilariously bad.
I enjoy the hell out of that song in that episode. I think that's easily one of the episodes. I can watch any of the episodes, but I mean, that episode specifically, I could watch any day.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And that's one of the tough ones to get on DVD, actually.
Megalon, not recently, actually. They just did a brand new Blu-ray DVD release of Megalon.
Oh, no, I'm talking about
Mr. Science. Oh, yep. Yeah. Let's get into that.
Because Rhino made some kind of mistake. They weren't sure who they were getting the rights from. Mm-hmm. And they kind of, bungled it. Their legal department, I guess, overlooked something. So they released it, and within 2 months, it was pulled because Toho, I believe, had the rights on that episode.
Yeah.
That movie that they used. So they had to pull it. And you know what? I was just starting to buy the box sets, and I remember I was at a Barnes & Noble, and they were having a box set deal.
Oh.
And it was like, I think it was like buy one, get one free or something like that. I can't remember. So it was like, oh, man, I got the money on me, but I don't know if I'm going to spend it. I'm holding the box set in my hands, like going back and forth, like, should I get it? Should I get it? And I decided just to get it. And I bought like that one and another MST3K box set they had. And then I never saw that episode again in stores. Yeah. So I was very, very thankful I bought that one because I couldn't have found it. I've been told you can get that on Amazon or eBay or something like that for $200.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, that was a wise decision on my part.
Yeah, no, definitely. Good on you, dude, because I saw that episode on YouTube finally because someone posted it. Sea Monster I still haven't seen in full. I've seen parts of it.
It's a little tricky to find. It hasn't been released on DVD. I don't know if they will. I'm curious to see what Shout Factory will do regarding the two Godzilla movies.
Here's the problem, though. Legendary has the rights to Godzilla now in America, and I know they're talking about trying to acquire all the American rights to the films to release a box set. Because that's the one thing we've never gotten as Godzilla fans is we've never gotten a box set with all the movies. It's just never happened.
Really? Wow. I guess that's cool. I've seen some cheap box sets. With some random Godzilla movies in them, but I've never seen a full one.
Yeah, they'll throw a few in there, and it's not any like order or anything. They just say, oh, here's a couple Godzilla movies we had in the back. Buy them for $5.
Yeah, there'll be a '60s one and a '90s one and a one of the 2000s one. There's no order or anything like that.
No, not at all. And we've never gotten a big old Showa Heisei Millennium box set for all three series, and it's like. And the reason is just because a lot of American companies own a lot of different Godzilla movies. And it's funny because this actually happened a few years ago when... do you have any of those Toho Masterworks Godzilla DVDs, the ones that Classic Media did?
Oh, yeah, I have the original one. Oh,
yes.
God, I love that box set. I mean, not box set, but that DVD. I think that's... They did it perfectly when they released it.
Oh, they did an amazing job. And it's unfortunate because now they've been outdone because now Criterion did their Godzilla Blu-ray, and that's magnificent, too.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude, buy it. It's amazing.
I may have to check that out.
Oh, it is a sexy-ass Blu-ray. It really is. So the problem is this, like, Toho is so very much so hard-ass with their Godzilla rights. So, I don't know. They're going to have to do some major... kiss-assing to get those two on DVD because, Sea Monster and Megalon. Here's the really interesting thing. I don't think I've ever told anyone this.
Sure.
The first Godzilla movie I ever saw was King Kong vs. Godzilla, and that was a VHS tape. The second one I mentioned earlier was Sea Monster. The same day I saw Megalon because I got them in a VHS double pack. From Kmart, back when Kmart was still alive.
They're still around. They're just really, really trashy.
Yeah. I mean, when you're looking up at Walmart and going, "Wow, that's nice," then you got
Oh,
problems.
you know what? You know what's worse than Kmart? Roses. Have you ever been to a Roses?
No, I've never even heard of a Roses.
Imagine Kmart, but shittier and ghettoer, and more rednecky. They're worse.
Oh God, I've never imagined that something would be worse than Kmart.
They are, and it's so sad because I'll look at them. My mom used to take me to them as a kid when they weren't trashy. And
same with Kmart.
Yeah, and Kmart too. But now they're just, I won't even go in there.
It's disgusting, right? And
yeah,
it's like, and then you go into a Walmart and you're like, oh my God, this is like J.C. Penney's.
I still hate Walmart, but
I don't ever go there. But what are we? Oh, okay. So I got Godzilla vs. Megalon and Sea Monster as a box set. So it's interesting that those are the two that were on Mystery Science Theater. Here's my theory. I think the two American companies that did those two are the same because there's some music cues that are used in both that are both stock music cues that aren't from Ifukube or Masaru Sato, who did the two music scores for those Japanese films.
Yeah.
So that's my theory. I'm not sure if that's true or not. So I think that all they have to do is just get the rights from Toho, which good luck, and get the rights from that company. And then they should be able to do it, but Godzilla rights is in such a tricky place right now with the new movie coming out.
So we'll see what they do. Shout, because I think the disadvantage Shout Factory is Toho probably remembers MST3K. It's like, oh, MST3K, that was a real fuck up. It's like they probably have a bad impression. From the first time. So they have an uphill battle on that one.
Well, they look at them and they just go, okay, yeah, those are the guys that made fun of our monster movie. Fuck them. We're not going to let them release our movie again in their own way.
Yeah, we'll have Matthew Broderick ruin our Godzilla movies.
Oh God.
Listen, let's switch subjects here. Let's talk about our particular favorite ones.
Sure.
Let's see. Do you want to start or do you want me to go?
You go ahead. I need to think for a minute.
My particular favorite MST3K Kaiju episode is without a doubt Gamera versus Giron.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the fourth one. Yeah, it's the fourth one they did. With the two little boys get tricked by getting into a spaceship. And it's inhabited. They get taken to a planet or star. It's kind of confusing because they keep calling it a star and it's a planet.
Yeah, they keep calling Earth a star too, which is weird.
Yeah, I don't know who was dubbing that script, but
I think that was Sandy Frank.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That explains it, right?
Yeah. But. Anyway, make a long story short, take this desolate planet that was like ruined. There's only two hot Japanese chick aliens and a giant monster with a knife head. He looks
and also Space Gaios.
Space Gaios. So apparently Gaios is there are more. Well, they're humanoids on other planets. I guess there could be Gaios. Anyway, they apparently I think these women I think they had killed everyone on their planet, and now they were going to eat these kids' brains and then go to
for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
They're aliens.
And what's hilarious is the dubbing on this one is just amazing because the two aliens sound like Midwestern women the way they talk.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it's weird too because those two Gamera movies, and those two, I mean, Destroy All Planets, and Gamera vs. Giron, otherwise known as, I don't know. I don't remember the title. Attack of the Monsters? I don't know. The American companies never called Gamera movies just fucking Gamera. They always had to be like, Destroy All Planets and War of the Monsters. But with Destroy All Planets and, Gamera vs. Giron, it's interesting because they have an American kid and a Japanese kid as kind of like Friends, and it's like, where the fuck did they find that American kid?
Well, they also did that in a couple others. There was another Gamma film that Mystery Science Theater didn't do, and there was an American kid. I think,
Zigra.
Yeah. No, that wasn't the Zigra episode. Oh, there was an American kid in the Zigra episode too.
Oh, they did Zigra. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. They did that in a couple of Gamma films, and I'm guessing the Gamma series, if you look at them from the 60s and 70s, the original series, it's very obvious they were going for gold with these movies. They wanted these to be as mainstream as possible, which is why they ended up being so goofy. Because,
they're trying to be kids' movies.
Yeah, and they were trying to appeal to as many people as they can, which I guess is when they were approaching the American market. I guess that's why they started to have American kids in their movies.
Yeah, it started with Giron, because everything up till Gauss just has Japanese kids. It always has. No, it's actually interesting. Gamera versus Barugon. Important distinction there. Not Baragon. Barugon.
Barugon.
Right. The rainbow shooting monster who very much so believes in gay pride.
Yes. And has the giant dog.
And oh yes, indeed, and freezes things because he's ice.
Yeah.
That's actually the only Gamera film that's in the Showa series that doesn't have a kid in it, and it's funny because it also has the least amount of Gamera in it. Gamera is only in like 3 scenes in that movie.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's all Barugon.
And from what I have heard, you may have heard different because you're a better student of these films than I am. It performed not as well as they had hoped. So that's one of the reasons why they put kids back in the movie, because they had gone too serious, and they thought they had gone too serious. So they put it back the other way. Now, if I was in the room, I might raise my hand and go, well, you barely have Gamera in this movie. That might have been a problem.
Right? It's like, we put the title character as this giant turtle who kids are going to love to see, and then you remove him from the movie.
Yeah.
And he's barely in it, and the rest of the movie is about fucking thieves and, like, espionage shit.
Yeah.
What do you think is the problem?
Yeah.
And it's very clear what they're going for. They're going for very much so a very Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster kind of tone. Because if you look at each Gamera film, I guarantee you can point to a Godzilla movie that has the same plot. Like Invincible is the original, and Gamera versus Barugon is very much so Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster, with the whole thieves thing, and it's all about humans and espionage crap.
Yes.
And all that stuff. But it is I think it's definitely the best of the Showa ones, because it tries its very best to tell an interesting story. The only problem is Gamera's barely fucking in it.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually pretty impressed when I first saw that episode, actually. That there weren't any annoying kids in it. The acting seemed pretty good, and actually, for the most part, pretty understated. I mean, there was no real big performances in it. Like, nobody going over the top.
No, not at all. It's all about, thieves and kind of honor amongst thieves kind of plot line. So it's got interesting parts in it. Again, it needs more Gamera in it.
Yeah, that actually was the Achilles heel of the film, actually. It wasn't because it was too serious or adult. No. I mean, if they had just more Gamera in it, that would have been fine. Because, I don't know about you as a kid, but when I was a kid, I didn't really need to see other kids in movies.
No, I did a whole episode of Godzilla Palooza about this. Did you see my one for Godzilla's Revenge?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Kids in monster movies. I went on this huge rant about how kids in monster movies destroy the imagination of children. Because here's what they do. When we're kids as monster movie fans, we imagine ourselves in that environment watching the monsters beat the crap out of each other and watch the humans trying to stop it. That's the situation. So when you put a kid doing that exact thing in that situation, when you have a kid going to Dreamland watching Godzilla beat the crap out of Kumanga, you're having someone do that for you, and it's boring.
And also, as a kid, I would be kind of offended because the kids were often the screw-ups. Well, here's the thing. Actually, in the Gamera movies, I'd noticed in the MST3K episodes, they were the ones who always seemed to have all the answers.
Yeah.
I mean, this film series totally kisses the ass of children. Because they're the smartest people in the movies. Despite the fact that they can't act.
Yeah. I love the part in Giron where the kid starts giving this giant speech about morality in front of Gamera and all these adults, and Gamera starts nodding.
It's like, yes, that kid's got a point.
Even though I don't speak English, and I really should just start eating all of you.
Yeah, and I do want to get back to Giron. I mean, everything about this episode is perfect. Joel and the bots riffing is fantastic. They're on every second. Yep. The movie itself is wonderfully goofy. It's goofy in all the right ways. The monsters are great. It doesn't drag. The music is hilarious.
Yes.
And this is the first time they had done a Gamera movie with the Gamera theme.
Gamera.
Oh God! I mean that is the gift that keeps on giving.
He is filled with turtle meat. We love eating Gamera.
And then at the end, they have Mike Nelson impersonate Michael Feinstein.
Oh.
Where he does a few different renditions of the Gamera theme. It's like, this is a perfect episode.
And then Dr. Forrest is just like, we're gonna kill him, right? Yeah, of course.
And what's cool is I had never heard of Michael Feinstein before.
Yes.
And this is one of those cases where you see the impersonation before you see the actual person. Mm-hmm. And so I'd flipped on TV once, and he was on. I'd come in the middle of whatever segment I was watching, and I knew it was him. Like, oh my God, this is Michael Feinstein.
Yeah.
And this is who Mike was making. Oh my God, it's perfect.
Yeah.
The best impression I've ever seen.
That was hilarious. That episode is really, really funny. It's filled with great gags. Of course, the Gamera theme song has become immortalized amongst Mystery Science Theater fans and Gamera fans.
Yeah.
I really hope if one day they ever do like another really dark, serious reboot of Gamera, they just throw that in there somewhere just as a joke.
Yeah. Well, they could do it in a way that Raimi did with the Spider-Man theme a couple of times.
Someone's just off to the side crazily singing into a cello.
Yeah. I mean, I love that moment in Spider-Man 2 where Spider-Man's just sitting there like kind of defeated, and he hears some woman singing the theme song.
The Chinese lady, Yeah,
I love that moment.
Yeah, that was great. Spider-Man, where have you gone now, Spider-Man? That was great. It was really funny. They should still do that in the Gamera in the new Gamera reboot, which isn't happening yet, but it's going to happen one day.
Well, as soon as the Godzilla franchise starts over again, we'll...
Yeah. Oh, totally. Because Catalog Pictures will be like, oh, wait, we can make money on this now.
Godzilla and Gamera are the Coke and Pepsi of monsters.
Right. Well, look at it this way. When you had the Showa Godzilla series, they went up to 65, and after that they were like, hey, this could make a lot of money. And that's when Gamera first got created. And then when you go to the 90s series, the year Godzilla died, actually on film, that's when Gamera Guardian of the Universe came out.
Yeah.
So it's hilarious. And then, of course, more fun, even funnier, with the Millennium series, you had Godzilla Final Wars, which was like the end-all, be-all of all Godzilla. And then the next year, Gamera the Brave, which it's a really weird movie. So it's really funny. So I really hope we see that with Gamera, and this time it won't suck like Gamera the Brave did.
Yeah. What is your particular favorite or favorites that MST3K did with Kaiju?
I'm gonna say actually for this one, I'm gonna say Gorgo. I love the episode with Gorgo. It's so hilarious. I mean, there's just so many great gags in it. Even outside of the theater, all of the gags are great.
Yeah.
The bit with Leonard Maltin, the bit where Bobo and Brain Guy are arm wrestling, and Bobo just keeps kicking his ass. It's great because Bobo always gets the shitty end of the stick in Mystery Science Theater.
He does.
And then finally gets to defeat Brain Guy in something, and it's like best out of 72. That was great. It was Bobo is likable, so it's good to see Bobo get his due. And then of course you had Leonard Maltin pop up, and the bit with the restaurant where it's like, no, you were getting an appetizer. And if you don't shut up, it's going to be a latte at Starbucks. That was really funny. And then once they get inside that theater, the jokes start flying. I think my favorite bit is the part where Gorgo is fighting the Navy. Yeah. And there's this part where you hear these really weird rocket sound effects.
Yeah.
And you just hear Crow go, they're shooting geese at her. That was so funny, because it sounded like that. Every time they shot a rocket, it was like, meh, meh, meh. It was really funny. And then, of course, my favorite moment is, of course, waiting for Gorgo.
Yeah.
There's so many, and then, of course, you have the calendar women of Gorgo, because it's a really great point. There are no women in that movie.
Yeah.
It's a sausage fest.
I know, and what I really enjoyed about that joke was that hadn't dawned on me until we got to that point in the episode where they started talking about it. It's like, oh, yeah, there are no women in the movie. Oh, outside of like extras.
And then they point out the one that's in the background, and they're just like, "There's a foxy lady of Gorgo." And then you have the what's that actor's name?
William Silvestri?
James. Yeah, whatever his name is, and the one from 2001.
Yeah.
They play his Trivial Pursuit game. Oh, that was great. And Mike is the only one who wants to play. That one's probably my favorite of the Kaiju ones.
It's so weird. William Silvestri, like during the sci-fi episodes, starts turning up. He is in Gorgo. He is in Riding with Death. And he is in The Devil Doll.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who pops up every now and then. And oh my god, that episode with Gorgo was just so funny.
Yeah.
But to go back to Joel, I think my favorite Kaiju Joel episode is either Gamera versus Gauss or it's Godzilla versus Megalon, because Gauss just it's really, really funny. The opening bit with those like giant like Etch-a-Sketches that they wear that like they draw the monsters on themselves.
Yeah.
That's something I missed that when Mike came on that they kind of dropped, was the whole invention exchange.
Yeah.
Because I think the idea was that it didn't make much sense for Mike to be able to do that. So they just stopped doing it. They did a couple episodes where he continued doing it, but they stopped them after a while.
Well, that was in transition. That mainly came to the fact that Joel was a prop comic / magician.
Right,
so
right.
that came out of his act. Matter of fact, the first season, that was pretty much bringing the act into the show.
Right.
And then when Mike took over, he's not that type of comedian.
Right,
so, yeah. He decided, well, let's turn a negative into a positive, and which is why the show's host segments developed and changed to sort of reflect Mike's comedic sensibilities.
Yeah, it almost became more of like an ongoing story when Mike took over. I know that part of that was that Sci-Fi Channel was kind of pressuring him into doing that for some reason.
Yeah. I know, it was weird. But actually, to Sci-Fi Channel's defense slightly, they were kind of doing stories here and there. It was kind of developing, like in the season 6. Actually, I think the Mitchell episode, when Joel actually left, that was was a story.
Yeah, definitely, because it was all about getting Joel off the Satellite of Love.
Yeah.
And brought Mike on.
And so that sort of started happening here and there, where they would have kind of story episodes. And then Sci-Fi Channel insisted upon it. Right.
Yes, very much so. And, you had that whole story arc where they were like in ancient Rome. Yeah. They were just meandering through time and space. It would have been funny if at one point they would have like bumped into the TARDIS or something. That would have been funny.
They made plenty of Doctor Who references over the years.
They did. They made lots of Doctor Who references. Yeah, there's so much in that episode to like, and it's one of my favorite eras in that show. I love Pearl. She's so funny. And of course, I love that whole new cast they built up after Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank left. But I do also really love the Gauss episode. The one with Megalon, they have so much fun with that movie.
Yeah.
Just making fun of the Cetopians, like character designs. There's so much that they riff on. I also love the part where Joel is just like, Saigon, I'm in a model of Saigon. That's so funny.
I gotta say, Godzilla vs. Megalon is probably my second favorite episode.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, to Gamera versus Giron.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's just, those two episodes are just perfect.
There's so much to them. There's so much stuff going on, and there's just so much humor that they bring out. I also really love the part as a Godzilla fan where Servo was just like, and now back to a plastic set somewhere. There's this wide shot where they zoom in on the laboratory where the scientist is, and it's just a plastic set. It's like a toy model.
There is, I can't remember which episode this was, where Servo, I think it was a Gamera episode, where the two monsters are wrestling. And I think Servo said, I know I'm supposed to be scared and excited and everything, but all I can think of is sweaty Japanese guys.
I think there was somewhere Barugon, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that was the Barugon episode, yeah.
Yeah, because they were fighting in the water.
Yeah.
So you gotta imagine those suits are probably getting waterlogged and shit.
Well, especially the older Godzilla and Gamera films. God, those suits just had pouring sweat.
Oh god, yeah. If you listen to the commentary on the original Gojira for the Criterion release, that would be weird. There's a part where they talk about how the actor Haru Nakajima, who played the original Godzilla, lost about 75 pounds playing Godzilla in the first movie.
That's quite a bit.
And every single time he took off the suit would take out about a cup of sweat because of how bad it was. Because you have just for some perspective, imagine wearing this as your job. You're paid to do this for about 12 hours a day. Of course you get breaks, but still. You get in a suit made out of latex, which has chicken wire and cotton inside, and that's what's rubbing up against your skin. Yeah. And remember, you're in about 130 degrees of heat under studio lamps, with dust flying everywhere and explosions going off. And of course, you're just gonna wear like a tank top or something, if anything, really. And you've got cotton that's built up with sweat rubbing up against your bare skin. Imagine what your skin looks like after that. Ugh. And every single day, they have to change the cotton and the chicken wire. And, of course, you can't see anything. So imagine that this is your everyday job. So it was a hell for them. And it's funny because Haru Nakajima, whenever he talks about it, it's just like, it was the best time of my life. I'm just like, wow. You are truly a trooper, sir. It's really, really funny. And also, oh, God. You gotta have so much respect for those guys who did that because it's just wow. But back to MST3K. Yeah, that was a really funny moment. Just the mega, especially the fight scene is definitely the best part. That's the highlight. Because they just have so much fun with that fight scene where they're just like, because at one point Godzilla just rips out a tree and starts beating the fuck out of Megalon, and they're just like, Godzilla's fighting dirty, and then Jet Jaguar's like, Godzilla, this is not like you, and then Godzilla's just like, yeah, you're right, this isn't the right club for this hole.
I gotta say, when I watch that sequence, it does really feel like Joel and the Bots are enjoying the movie at that point.
Yeah, well, because I feel like
they're into it.
It's goofy, it's fun, and they're into the goofiness of it all. They're into the spirit of it all, and that's where that's where the defense for Mystery Science Theater against these studios comes up for me, because it's they're not criticizing them, saying they're terrible movies that no one should see them. They're celebrating them. They're celebrating the spirit of them, and to criticize that to me is saying I don't want my movie to be remembered. I don't want my movie to be immortalized. I really get sad when studios criticize it like that. Because they're not tearing them apart for the sake of tearing them apart. They're tearing them apart for fun and for legacy. It's really, you got to get into the spirit of it. It's very, very charming.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, if you look at the way the show has been produced, even at its most expensive looking on the Sci-Fi Channel, they kind of relate that charm to the actual set of the show. I mean, the black field of space behind them in the scenes are just like Christmas lights against black construction paper. That set was built by the cast.
Didn't Joel in one night?
What's that?
Didn't he design the bots in one night?
Yeah, let's see. Well, Joel did a lot of like overnight stuff. But I mean, even when they got the deal on the network to do on the Comedy Channel and Comedy Central, I mean, the cast built that set. I mean, they hot glued like Star Wars toys, to the wall. If you look, you can see like the old Darth Vader action figure collector's case. You can see the Millennium Falcon. Because actually Trace had designed that, from what I understand. It was his concept to make it look like. You got to remember, this is like the late '80s, so a lot of space stuff kind of reflected off Star Wars, and a lot of Star Wars spaceships and stations had that kind of like gray, bumpy look to it.
Right.
So that's what they copied for that set. Right. And so the spirit of like putting together a show and a film with what we got, just extends right to the actual making of the actual show.
Right. I love Pearl Ship, how it's got like cigars for the afterburners.
Yeah.
And it's a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. No, but yeah, it's a show that I think these kaiju movies have to. It's funny because I'm actually going to bring up a brief story that comes from Kevin Murphy, who played Servo on the show. Have you ever heard the story? He was apparently at an event once, and Kurt Vonnegut Jr. was there.
Oh, I haven't heard this.
Okay.
And I thought I've heard every story. Okay.
Okay, so Kevin Murphy is there with the cast, watching. I don't remember why they were there. Some event, and Kurt Vonnegut Jr. was there, who is a hero of Kevin Murphy, and apparently he went up to Kurt Vonnegut Jr. and wanted to meet him more personally and explain to him the premise of Mystery Science Theater, and Kurt Vonnegut Jr. was very, very angry at it. He was very dismissive of it because he was like, every single film, no matter how bad, should be honored and should not be made fun of in that way. And Kevin Murphy was like, well, no, it's not like that. Please have dinner with me and the cast, and I'm sure you'll get to know better. And Kurt Vonnegut Jr. was just like, I have plans. And then they went out to eat at that restaurant, and they saw him there alone.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really, he felt very depressed after that. Just imagine your hero calls what you have devoted your life to pointless.
Oh, I know. That's got to be kind of a punch in the gut.
Oh, I'm sure.
But, yeah, you know what? Every movie gets parodied, Oh, yeah. I mean, from, like, Citizen Kane to Dark Knight to Star Wars, every movie gets made fun of. The difference with Mystery Science Theater is they do it to the movie's face. Yeah. The movie is playing the straight man, and they're right there making fun of the movie.
Right.
Whereas, like a parody movie like Airplane or Blazing Saddles, that's an original movie that they're making fun of from afar.
Right.
But yeah, this is different. And yeah. I guess it's more personal that way for some people.
Yeah, well, I think that what Mystery Science Theater achieves is that it's very much so the movie for people who like to make fun of movies. It's like, it's this show, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's just like, as a kid, it was something that really that spoke to me, because it was just like, oh, I do this. People do this and they have fun with it, and people don't like yell at them. Wow.
Yeah, and I instantly recognized what they were doing when I first saw it. Like,
Same
oh
here.
Man, this is kind of what I've done at home, and somebody else thought of this. This is fantastic. And, I always love the camaraderie of Joel and the Bots and Mike and the Bots, how they always did seem like friends.
Yeah.
And they also, what was interesting was they would use the movie in a way to make fun of the culture. Like when they do a James Bond ripoff, they would use that movie as an excuse to make fun of all James Bond, movies and ripoffs and spy movies and stuff like that. Right. Not just simply that film. And they got into the habit of, like, when they do a movie from Japan or a movie from Russia or a movie from England, that's when they would, like, use all their English jokes or Japanese jokes. Right. Which gave them a whole, or like, oh, this movie is really 70s. Let's make fun of everything from the 70s and blah, blah, blah. Right. Like, God, they made so many, like, Lord of the Rings jokes.
Pop culture references.
And some of their fantasy movies, which was always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's very much like a time capsule. Each movie they do is like a time capsule of that era. Like, you watch Revenge of the Creature. Yeah. So they did on that, and it's 50s Universal in one episode of Mystery Science Theater. You also have and also in that stretch of episodes, you got Planet of the Apes in there too. Yeah. In that same era. Oh my God. That I think it was the Deadly Mantis, which is one of my favorites. Oh, that bit cracks me the fuck up. Where it's a parody of the ending of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, where the mutants come to the apes and ask them to fix their nuclear bomb, and they're doing it like they're fixing a car, and and they're reading the manual, and they're yelling at each other like they're fixing a car, and the whole time the mutants are singing everything they say. And then Mike is just like, he's yelling at them like, "Don't fix it! It's a bomb! It's going to destroy the whole world!" And then he accidentally gives them the way to fix it. Yeah. And they start singing. It's great. And then
I love that moment. I love that moment where they're singing, and Bobo and Professor Peanut like turn to them and go, "Hey, will you shut up? We're trying to fix your nuclear bomb."
Yeah. Oh God. You've also got to love how much of the Bots and Mike were in these other roles in the off the ship segments. Like, Kevin Murphy was also Bobo, and Bill Corbett was also Brain Guy. Yeah. So, and of course you had who's the actress who played Pearl again?
Mary Jo Pehl.
Right, and you also had her playing a lot of roles before she was the villain. When it was still Dr. Forrester, and even before she played his mother.
Yeah, she played a bunch of female characters. Like she played an Amazon. She played the Magic Voice. She played Jan in the Pan. Right. And she would just do random characters here and there. Right.
Yeah. So it's a very, very, it's all charming, and it's just there's nothing bad about Mystery Science Theater in my eyes. Just everything they do just becomes gold to me. Yeah. Like whatever parody they make, whatever joke they make, whatever movie they make fun of, it's just like there's never a boring moment.
No, they make life. I mean, it always cheers me up. It's still a part of my daily regimen. I mean, I usually go to sleep, watching a little bit of one of their episodes.
Same here.
And I'm actually going to watch tonight a little bit of Angel's Revenge, which I think is fantastic. Speaking of the 70s.
I'm going to watch Gorgo again. Now talking about it, it's like, I want to watch the movie again. Yeah. Or the episode again. Yeah, it's just Mystery Science Theater is a very important show in my life, and I don't think I have to say, Manos, that it's an important part of yours. I mean, you've devoted half of your channel to it.
That's true, and I named myself after it.
You named yourself after it, yeah. It's just like, I don't think, you wear it on your sleeve, and it's just, fans of the show are very, very vocal, and, we're large and we're in charge. And it's a show that will never die. And in terms of its relationship to kaiju films, I'm just of the mindset that these companies need to get the stick out of their ass. Toho, I love you, but pull that thing out. You're gonna feel so much better.
I do understand.
Yeah.
Because monster movies, before Mystery Science Theater, had a dubious reputation anyway.
Sure, yeah.
So, I get it. I get why they would be hesitant to embrace MST3K.
Right.
Because they're very much about struggling for, and much like comic fans, like just a few years ago, struggling for acceptance and somebody to take them seriously.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
And we'll see what happens with Pacific Rim.
Yeah, and then of course new Godzilla coming after that.
Which Pacific Rim, I think, a little off topic. I mean that film might be a game changer.
That movie looks amazing.
Because I mean, if it like explodes or bombs, isn't it weird that those sound pretty much like it would be the same thing, but they're not.
I know, right?
If it's successful or not successful, I think it's going to have an impact. If it's going to be a big hit, it's going to have a massive impact on the next Godzilla films and Gamera films.
Yeah, we did. Me and a couple friends of mine did a video for my watchers out there. Me and Gorzard did a video on Pacific Rim and Godzilla potentially being like the light for a new era of giant monster movies. Kind of like how superhero movies have had this huge explosion over the past few years. It's just like every single superhero is getting a movie, or at least an attempt is.
Yeah.
And for hopefully Pacific Rim and Godzilla will incite that kind of newfound love for that kind of genre in future film fans, and it'll have its own generation of Hellboy will get if Hellboy gets a movie, why can't Gamera get a new movie, or Godzilla, or any of these monsters, or Rodan get his own movie. That kind of era looks like it's going to happen one day, and I hope that Pacific Rim is the start. But we're not, we're getting off Mystery Science Theater now.
Well, we're kind of summing up.
Yeah, very true. I think we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but again, Mystery Science Theater, a huge part of our lives. And again, in relation to kaiju films, I think that they very much so keep the charm alive. And we were talking about that scene at the end of Megalon where they're watching the fight scene, and they're not tearing it apart saying it's terrible. They're having fun with it.
And what that's what all supposed to be about.
Exactly. It's all about entertainment. It's all about fun. It's all about just the camaraderie. As someone who's been getting more involved with the community of monster movie fans, the camaraderie exhibited is it's spectacular. And I think that Mystery Science Theater is something that very much so kept that alive and has definitely been a catalyst for it for other generations. For people who didn't know who Gamera was, who saw him on Mystery Science Theater. So it's a very important show to monster movies and kaiju films, because again, as I just said, they introduced people to it who didn't know about it. So I think they definitely owe them that. So Manos, is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we kind of wrap this up?
I think that's it. That's all I can think of.
Yes, indeed. So, man, thank you very much for joining me again on my channel. I had a blast talking Mystery Science Theater with you.
Me too. It was great. I had a lot of fun.
Same here. All right, everyone. So thank you very much for listening. Got some really cool stuff coming up on my channel soon. And if you haven't already subscribed to Therealmanos, definitely subscribe to him. He posts some really great videos. Also, he does his own comic book series, so you should definitely read that.
Yeah. Red Knight.
Woo! Indeed. Red Knight for the win. So definitely check that out. He's got some really cool stuff going on over there, so definitely go subscribe to him. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I'm Zazubaar.
Oh, and I'm Therealmanos.
He is. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all soon.